Oh, wow. Here we are. We're back in the studio once again. Hi there. It's time for a special Veterans Day recording of a Super Sully stream. Thank you so very much for everyone out there. We're going to start off with a classic gratitude list handed down to me from the, in recovery ex-felon Gary Beekler of Nerdrotics. Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing the gratitude list idea with me. I do a gratitude list every day. In a way, I used to write it down on paper. I filled up both sides of yellow legal pad. Can you believe that? I'm a analog kind of guy. I use pen and paper. It's got to be like, I love yellow legal pad. I love blue ink. It's got to be medium ballpoint pen, preferably a Bic pen. None of that runny ink. I don't like a fine point. Medium ballpoint, blue ink, yellow legal pad. That's me. Let me scribble. And my bad penmanship. I would fill up both sides of these sheets of today's date, and at my lowest, I referred to my old gratitude lists, and what I found was there was a cipher there. There was a key. I figured it out by looking at it. The one or two things in my mind that were causing me misery by overthinking, I was given relief and perspective by being able to count my gratitudes, count my blessings, and that old wisdom, that granny wisdom, count your blessings. Yeah, that literally is that's exactly what I did. So I figured out that my blessings outweighed, overcame the number of blessings. I had 14 things to be blessed for today. I had 16 yesterday. I had 15 this day last week. I had 11 the day before that. Things are not as bad as your self-talk is trying to make it appear they are to you. I mean, your self-talk's there for a reason, but you got to run your mind, or your mind will run you. You have to run your self-talk, or your self-talk will run you. You have to run your anger, or your anger will run you. Make a choice. This is The Spiritual Life. I am Reverend Sully, Eric O'Sullivan, born and bred in Boston, Massachusetts. I live in the Boston area. I'm coming to you from our Boston studios. That's right, the hub of the multiverse. And we start off with some gratitude. So I start off my gratitude list in I have a method. It's called the patented Sully Foundation System. And, and I start off my gratitude list with a dozen things. It started with 5. It grew to 6. It grew to 8. It grew to 10, to 11. Now it's 12. And I keep adding to this list. And I do the foundation method. It's like the old Karate Kid movie, wax on, wax off. This is to help build up a mental, spiritual, and psychological muscle memory to get you conditioned in order for you or myself to be able to be strong enough to have the discipline to carry this out on a daily basis. And so I wake up at 3:38 every morning workday during the week. I hit the office by 6 a.m. That's my shift. I am an early bird, so I have to wake up early. And I wake up early and I roll out of bed 3:38 a.m. Anti-meridian, East Coast time, daylight or standard time. I'm up at 3:38 a.m. And I am already grateful for 12 different things because I have reformatted my hard drive to emit and accept gratitude. Gratitude's this amazing principle in life, and it can just add to your day-to-day existence, your moment-to-moment existence. It's worked for me, and I'm going to pay back Gary Beekler by paying it forward to anyone out there hungry enough to be able to really accept this wisdom And this is wisdom in action. And I hope you can hear it. I got 2 hyphens in that phrase. Wisdom in action. This is not, it's not just good enough to read the self-help books and the spiritual books, but to live its meaning in a wholesome, holistic, healing, wonderful, neutral, graceful way. God bless us all. You can do it too. So the patented Sully Foundation system is, I wake up and I'm already grateful for 12 different things. I am grateful for my family, my friends, my faith, my freedom, my health, my union job, a good night's sleep, a solid breakfast, the peace that comes from being a single man my age, my sobriety, in whatever form that takes today, with its highs and lows, its peaks and valleys, its wins and losses. It's the road that I'm on. I've never been more sober in my life, but I am, admittedly so, still kind of California sober. But it's a process, and it's on my mind, and it's time. I'm also very grateful, and especially on this Veterans Day, for the U.S. military, all active service members, and especially the veterans who have served our country. Like one of my best friends from high school, you might know him out in the chats, is MC. Well, he's retiring as he's a captain in the U.S. Naval Reserves. So thank you very much for your service to our country. And, thank you. People like you, Americans like you, who sacrifice their time and their potential of like their lives to help run this country, to help run, to secure the borders, part of a nation's sovereignty, to help defend its culture, its way of life, and to run an infrastructure of defense, not offense. I mean, it's the Sun Tzu opens up the art of war with, the art of war is of a vital importance to a state, capital S. It could mean the road to riches or ruin. And that's just a paraphrase. You can look it up yourself. There's free copies of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's a short read. It's amazing. Again, wisdom in action. The Sun Tzu's The Art of War is part of my quell of my source of wisdom. And after the veterans and especially those who gave their lives, that's Memorial Day that we do this. But today's about veterans, those who live and those who served. From younger people to the elderly, for 3 generations. I bet you always have about 3 generations of veterans at one time. And let's think, and let's send some blessings and love and gratitude to the Veterans Association. It's not an easy job. It's probably a very demanding job because the number of veterans, the resources available, and maybe we always put veterans first in a way. They have served, they have sacrificed, and and especially veterans in need and homeless veterans, and especially the suicide rate in veterans. These are all alarming things. They're real things. So we should be really blessed and grateful today on Veterans Day. And I am. And number 12 is I'm grateful for you. Oh, viewer. Oh, all of you that tune into this channel, this hobby of mine, this space that we've created for ourselves here at the Reverend Sully Network. That's right, the Eric O'Sullivan channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not try now? We're still a growing channel and a small channel. We do a very curated set of content here. We do spirituality, gratitude videos, cooking. I do nerdy stuff and geeky stuff. I love science fiction. I love movies. I love cinema. I love art. I do love games. I don't consider myself a gamer, but we're going to be talking a little bit about games today. I mean, and to talk about comic books. You might know me from Wes's Thinking Critical Saturday show, The Comics Aficionados. I'm a proud member of that panel. I've been a rotating panel member for over 3 years, and this past year became a permanent member of the panel. And I look forward to hanging out with my now real life friends every Saturday, and especially the best live chat on the planet, where we get to flex our geek and talk about what's going on in our hobby. And all critical stuff that comes from us comes from a place of genuine concern and love for this thing of us. We've got it here. Subscribe. Just like take the suggestion of the dash of the banner dasher. So art. I mean, I painted that. That's acrylic on canvas. It's a flat 2D representation of a 3-dimensional object. It's I call it my Warhol. It's done to purposely evoke Andy Warhol. I painted that. It was my first painting ever. It had an easel. I had acrylic paints on canvas. I mixed some colors together to get that gold color that I used as trim, but it's meant to be basic. And the Campbell's soup can of Andy Warhol in a way too, but it's flat and there's no definition to it. There's no shadow, there's that I did that on purpose. Because it was about cartooning it. And I also, it says up there, Sully, instead of Campbell's, it says Sully's. And instead of condensed, it says repressed, meaning I'm inside the can and I need to be let out. And I called that my 2002 self-portrait. Don't we all sometimes feel like we're inside the can and we need to be let out? Whatever's inside of us needs to be we need to open. Well, who's going to open the can? Where is the can opener? Metaphor kind of falls apart the more you stretch it. A metaphor is great for a very singular kind of boom kind of thing. It's a job. It's got a purpose. Boom. And that actually says tomato in Japanese. And I get the little fleur-de-lis on the bottom there, and the volume in metric and imperial. Just I tried to in the seal. It's pretty detailed inside the seal with laurel leaf and the Roman style of whatever was in the inside of it. I had a can of soup and I used that as my as I tried to recreate the label on the can of soup, but then I elaborated with the Japanese and with calling it Sully's and repressed instead of Campbell's condensed. And that's my one and only art of I made art, and that's a self-portrait, an ironic, contemplative, metaphoric self-portrait. And it's purpose, and I purposely made a 2D representation of a 3D object in a very specific reference to pop art, to the pop art of Andy Warhol of the late 1960s. I love art. I do. I really do love art. I grew up surrounded by art books. Rubens, Peter Paul Rubens. Was it Paul Peter Rubens? So many, it's Rubens nudes. It's it filled my eyes from small childhood. My mom would have these art books everywhere. She loved art, and it fostered an appreciation with me for art and museums, and so much so that comic books, they're all about this the unification of art and story, and of sequential panels telling a story Cheers. I'm not a gamer. My history of my games have been... I am 53 years old. I was there for the first generation of cabinet video games in the late 1970s. I was a small child, and a quarter meant the difference between, like, 2 quarters could be a comic book or 2 video games. The economics of being an 8-year-old. And so I was big, and then there was the big boom of the early 1980s, and I'm 10, 11, 12 years old, and video games and arcades. And then came home systems. The Atari 2600, a few friends had. They had also Intellivision, ColecoVision, Sega Mega Drive, which was the precursor to the Sega Genesis 16-bit. So this was an 8-bit box, an 8-bit deck that was a competition to the Nintendo Super Famicom, which we would know later on as the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. That first one, with Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers, the Super Mario Brothers. That game changer. I loved NES, but I'd never had an NES. I had, when I was 11 years old, in 1984, my parents, my mom and my stepdad, Frank, her first husband, her second husband, my first stepdad, and they bought me an Atari 800 XL, which was a home computer that I could learn BASIC, 10, run, go to, it was kind of fun. It had to have an educational value to it. We couldn't just give them a video game to make them happy. I wanted the Atari 2600. So they gave me something parallel to a 2600, a home computer. And the best part of it was I had 2 games. I had Pac-Man, which was a terrible adaptation of the cabinet. Oh my gosh! And I could never get the swing of Pac-Man. It's just about rote memorization and muscle memory somewhere on Pac-Man. I never could get it. And then there was Star Raiders, and Star Raiders I played on the 2600, and it came with an additional plug-in of an alphanumeric pad to do the higher functions of the ship's, control, the con systems and the pilot. So you could use your QWERTY as the con system, and it made an interesting 2-player game too. That you could have a pilot gunner and a like a captain, and then and then the cons. It was interesting, yeah. And then in high school, my mom actually, in the late 80s, got me something fun and non-educational value. And it was the Nintendo Game Boy, the original Game Boy, with the spinach green screen. And she got me the Nintendo Power Pack kind of thing. It was an external battery that you would recharge. That was a smart thing too. I remember my favorite games were, I like Castlevania, Xevious. Was it Xevious or something? I don't know. It was Tetris, and it came in the box. Tetris. Do 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 do. I don't want to get a strike, but it's like the original music. I mean, I love Tetris. We had the best light in the house because it was an original Game Boy. It wasn't a self-illuminating screen. You needed an external light source, and it was that green screen with the black, blocky Nintendo style gameplay. Did that work? I just got up and got a little more coffee. I like this has a pause button. So yeah, I got a Game Boy, and I remember Castlevania and just what else did I didn't have that many games for it. But I mean, Tetris was king, and the best light in the house was the bathroom, where we had this like foil reflective wallpaper. And so I remember this one time specifically, like I put the lid down on the toilet, I sat down and I played Tetris. And I remember this because it was my best game ever. I got 181 lines. And I remember that like I'm like, holy shit. 181 lines in Tetris. That's amazing. I mean, my average would be like in the 120s or 30s or so. So this was just like, that was like a very vivid memory of that. And then trying to get up, I almost fell down. My legs had fallen asleep because I was sitting down, and that crouch, you're sitting on a toilet bowl lid. I mean, you know how your legs get. And my legs fell asleep. And then a couple of years later, I would my first check for my first. I'm still living at home. I'm 19 years old, just graduated from high school. And over the summertime, I got my first restaurant job through my aunt. Her friend, whose brother and sister worked at a notorious tourist trap in Boston. The Bull and Finch pub at 84 Beacon Street, the AKA the inspiration for the Cheers bar. It's since changed names to Cheers Boston, and they replaced the Bull and Finch sign with the Cheers, sign itself from the TV show, the NBC sitcom of the 1980s and early 90s. So yeah. My first check from there, I went down the street to FAO Schwartz on the corner of Boylston and Berkeley Street, the giant teddy bear outside. You walk in and it's the same. Wow, God bless those people that work there. They tuned it out probably after a while, but welcome to our world of toys. Welcome to our world of toys. Dun, dun. I mean, I was driving me nuts, and I was only in there for 10 minutes. But what did I do with this first paycheck? I bought me a Sega Genesis 16-bit deck. And I got, for the sole purpose of getting Electronic Arts NHL 94. No, it was NHL PA 93. Sorry, I remember this clearly now. Yeah. And then for Christmas, I got Madden 93. Like the gold foil edition one, which was like extra stuff. And you could save your games on this thing. Wow, that was so cool. It like the Madden one, it had an extra long like cartridge because I think it had a battery for its simple memory system, so it can keep track of your seasons and shit. So, but yeah, those were, and then Sonic the Hedgehog. I loved Sonic the Hedgehog. I can't wait to, I actually a long time ago for an iPod, back in the old iPod days, where you had the scroll wheel and the smaller screen before they became touch screens, I had a version of Sonic the Hedgehog for my iPod. I'm not a big gamer on my phone. I don't use games on my iPhone. I've had iPhones since 2014, so I've been a decade. I've gone over 3 iPhones in over a decade. The 4, the XS Max, and now the 17 Pro Max. But I'm not a gamer on my phone. I don't game on my phone. And this is like my history as a gamer. So it's like, but also then after that, I upgrade. After Genesis, I got the PlayStation 1, got the PlayStation 2. I skipped the PlayStation 3, and about 10 years ago, it is 10 years ago because it is 10 years ago, I got the PlayStation 4 Star Wars Battlefront bundle, and I've been PlayStation 4 ever since. I do not have a 5. I don't have any intention of buying a 5. Instead of getting a 5, I got a Sony All Regions Blu-ray player, Ultra HD 4K thing. So I can buy, it was about, that thing cost, close to what a PlayStation 5 costs. But now I can get all regions. I can get Blu-rays and, and DVDs from everywhere. I keep it unplugged in the box. Well, because when you keep it plugged in, you got a current running through it, and so it's going to suffer a form of heat death. So the longer I can keep it unplugged, when I'm not using it, I keep it cold. It's going to sustain the life of the machine itself. If I can get this machine to last the next 30 years as a classic component, well maintained, with job well done. So that's my history of gaming. I mean, I'm 53 years old and don't consider myself a gamer. I love video games, though. So comes around last year, I got one of my best friends, I've seen it all over my Twitter timeline, this kind of cheap knockoff emulator, handheld, preloaded with thousands and thousands and thousands of games over different deck systems. I got him one and his worked. I got myself one. It didn't work. I sent it back, got another one, sent that back, got another one, sent that back. So I got 3 bum ones in a row. Inglorious bastards. I always think of that every time I flip the number 3 with my hand. And so I gave up on it. Posty loves his. He says it's fun. So comes it's my birthday this next week, and so I'm getting myself little things here and there. $80 on Amazon. All right, it's got a nice little case. All right, it's the same thing, but it's a little updated. This thing. And so this thing, it looks like a kind of like a bit of a knockoff of a Nintendo Switch. I don't have the power on yet. Power button's over here, as you can see. You got R1 and R2 up here. You've got your power. You've got a normal headphone jack. Over here you have an SD card. It comes preloaded with one. Sorry. And already with thousands and thousands of games on it. And so let's turn it on. Hello, Smithers. You really know how to turn me on. Ah, you didn't see that. That's an old Simpsons reference. All right. But yeah, I don't play games on this. And I'm looking for an excuse to to not touch the Black Mirror so much. With what? Another Black Mirror. I wouldn't consider this a Black Mirror. This is okay, $80, and I'm so happy with this thing already. I love the lights on it. Am I hitting the right button? Oh, there it is. I like how this lights up. The XF40H open source console. It takes about 20 seconds for it to warm up, and it's got the cute kind of lighting to it. All right, it's loading. So this works right out of the box. This is what I was looking for. You got Sega Genesis. All these, man, each one of them has so many games. Mega Drive, whatever the SG-1000 is. Nintendo DS, I think, and it has they have Assassin's Creed and Call it. We're gonna take a peek at it. Game Boy Advance. I had a Game Boy Advance. The Legacy of Goku. There's the Game Boy Color. All right. Nintendo 64, Super Nintendo, NES, the Super Famicom system. So there are a lot of Chinese and Japanese versions. The Nintendo Disk System, the Nintendo Family Computer, PC. So this is there must be PC games on here. I don't know that one. Capcom games, Capcom 2, Capcom 1, arcade games, favorites. I haven't figured out how to do load up favorites yet. I'm getting there. I'm getting to know the system. I just got it the other day. Sometimes the buttons are so befuddling. All user manual, PSP, PlayStation, Neo Geo Pocket, classic Neo Geo. Wow, I bet you Splatter. I'd love to play Splatterhouse. Game Gear, Dreamcast, and that's so. And then let's go to arcade and just like look at it. The first thing that I played on this was NES Tetris, and because it's such a simple kind of configuration for the buttons. Okay. Oh, and it's so small. I need my peepers, my cheaters. Okay, let's select arcade, and then let's just go through the games. Simpsons. 2-on-2 open ice challenge, dude. Okay, this is like a 1995 game. This is 30 years old. A 4-on-4, a 4-player hockey game with 1995 NHL players and teams. It's just imagine NBA Jam, then replace basketball with hockey. It's exactly what it is. I wanted to get the arcade coin op one. There's one of this. You can get that. We're gonna go up. Start from Z. How's that? But these are all the arcade games. The coin op games. Zaxxon! Holy shit! How do I add this to my to? Oh, that's how you add to favorites. Okay. Hopefully that's saved as a favorite. Oh, Zaxxon is a wonderful game. Yamato. Is this about space battleship? No, this is about something else. Xevious. Oh my gosh. Love Xevious. X-Men 4-player. Oh, look at see that? And I can play all of these games. X-Men 2-player. WrestleMania. Oh, wow. And we're just on the W's, all right? This thing has thousands and thousands and thousands of games. Wow. I hope you're entertained so far. Let me know in the comments section if this is kind of boring. But we haven't even started looking at the decks. Oh, Tron. Oh, wow. Top Secret. Top Speed. I'm looking for Time Soldiers. Time Soldiers was fun. I put so many frigging quarters in Time Soldiers. Time Pilot. Yes. I love Time Pilot. Oh, yes, please. You can also there's also a search where you can just go to a search and put in the name of the game and it'll give you a menu. So it's got that much going for it too. Tetris. But I like the NES version the best. Yeah. Tecmo Bowl. Anything you want to play? Superman. Is that the one with the... Oh, is. That was a good game. It was a side scroller. Punch Out, Super Pac-Man, Super Contra. Hopefully there'll be a bunch of Star Wars games. Star Wars Arcade. Oh my gosh. I love this game. This is one of my all-time favorites. This is the Star Wars 1983 Atari, especially the sit-down one. Oh, shit. Yes. Spy Hunter. I love Spy Hunter. Dun, 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 dun. Spider-Man, the video game. Oh, wow. Space Invaders. Wow. How much more classic can you get? So this is just the arcade games. Okay, and now let's look at something else. Let's look at let's look at the Nintendo. And some of them have no box art. Dr. Mario, Super Mario. The second game I played was Super Mario Brothers 3 because I never got to play it. And so these have Nintendo games. Don't rat us out to Nintendo. Spy Hunter for the NES. I love that game. Top Gun is a great game too. They also have Chinese and Japanese versions of games too. Like I found a Star Wars game that was for the NES here, and I had never seen it before because it had Japanese title cards or word balloons. I think it was Japanese. But these Earthworm Jim, Earthworm War. Gundam, Great Battle. Oh, wow. Dirty Harry. These are all just the Nintendo games. In my pocket. Now, the things are that it's a little flimsy as a device. You know, you can tell it's cheapness. It really is. There's no real good way to replace the battery, I hear. So it's kind of very temporary. But as an artifact, of all of these games, this is like a museum in your pocket. And I hope we don't get it. The music doesn't. So, but I've never seen. I thought I saw all the Star Wars video games as a kid. There was a Star Wars video game for the NES. Now, of course, there was Super Star Wars for the SNES, and that's a bit of more of a remarkable game. Isn't this? And then, but just we're gonna just check out the gameplay real quick. But like thousands and thousands of games in my pocket, $80. So 1987 Namco game. I didn't hear about this. I don't think this was available for the American system. I don't remember this, but I love one thing I love about Super Star Wars is how it is like. I love the recreation of the icon 1987, and here's the gameplay. Oh wow, there's an X-wing mode. Wow, that's so cool. I don't yeah, this was not available. Oh, wow. Ain't that fun? I figured out how to get back. So you hit select and start at the same time, and it brings you back to the menu. So let's look at just one more menu. Wow, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Like I really want to start. I want to play these Mario games. Game Boy Advance. Like there are so many Dragon Ball games that didn't make it to the States. These are Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z games that I've never played that I now have access to. The Pokemon games. I've never really played the Pokemon games. Oh, Sega Genesis. And I had a Sega Genesis. I played Mortal Kombat all the time on that. Unreal Tournament. That was a good fighter. Let's look at PlayStation. There are the PlayStation games. Crash Bandicoot, huh? Die Hard Trilogy, Doom, Double Dragon, Duke Nukem. FIFA Soccer 2025. 2005. Marvel versus Street Fighter. Marvel versus Capcom. Resident Evil, yes! Hot shit. I will play RE. All of these games are in my pocket. All of these games are with me on the go. I call this the Bic Pen of arcades. This is the Bic Pen arcade. What's a Bic Pen? Well, we started off talking about Bic Pens. They're disposable ink. When the ink's all done, you just throw it away. They're cheaply made. Tomb Raiders, Tekkens, Street Fighter, Spyro, X-Men Mutant Academy. Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Okay, so that's all the PlayStation games. All right. That's not too many, but that's a nice selection. Wow. No Sonic the Hedgehog, huh? Yeah, no Sonic the Hedgehog. Interesting. But Resident Evil Director's Cut. Oh, wow. We spent so much time playing that game. My roommate James played it, and I would watch him play it. Let's see what this Resident Evil Director's Cut. Wow. It all began here. Red herb and blue herb. Or was it red herb and green herb? Makes a blue herb. And then you had, we were stuck and we had to call the helpline. All this and the power of and your pocket. I mean, this is really, really fun. Oh, wow. So cool. So yeah, that's my one of my birthday presents to myself was my Bic arcade. Wow, you can apparently add more games to it if you got if you downloaded games onto an SD card and put it in here. You can just, I guess, I'm boomer. Yeah, I'm a boomer. No, I'm a Gen X. So yeah, we were talking about V for Vendetta. I was mentioning this on Sunday's show, gushing about this in particular. This is 368 pages of collected book, the complete story. All right, it's pretty thick. It's for $10, for $9.99. It's 17 plus, $9.99 USA. This was produced. Let's V for Vendetta novel series, and you're going to read this because you know I like to read from the wikis. That's right. I haven't said that in a while. ATST, ATST. Wiki. My Rich Evans tribute. I love Rich Evans. I love Red Letter Media. I really do. But I'm going to read from you from the wiki. Now I have caps on. What do I have? V for Vendetta. Initially published between 1982 and 1985 in black and white as an ongoing serial in the British anthology Warrior. And Warrior was a comic anthology that ran for 26 issues between March 1982 and January of 1985. It's one of the, it's the British comics of the early 80s. They're legendary. They're synonymous with the punk rock scene and the new wave of Margaret Thatcher politics and of the response to that too. And so V for Vendetta is steeped in the political seasonings of that epic, of that day, of the early 1980s. And that's where it's coming from. Young people. Alan Moore was barely 30 years old. He was in his late 20s. Late 20s. He had just done the first Dark Age book, I think. In 1981, Alan Moore did his modernization, his dark approach to the otherwise benign Marvel Man, Miracle Man, where he darkened everything. And that was I think, in my humble opinion, Alan Moore's Marvel Man, Miracle Man, as it's known here in the States, was the first of that Dark Age. It wasn't Dark Knight by Miller. It wasn't Moore's own Watchmen around that same time. And it wasn't V for Vendetta. But V for Vendetta is its serialization. It was completed in the 1988-1989 10-issue color limited series published by DC Comics in the United States. The subsequent collected editions were typically published under DC's Vertigo imprint until that was shut down in 2018. Apparently, outside of as a publishing thing, as this is DC Compact, so it's got the updated maker's mark, the return to the bullet. So, and there's no specific. These are meant to be sold at different points of sale origins, not specifically your local comic book shop. No, this is meant to be put into Barnes and Noble, and not even in the comic book section itself. It's meant to be put in. So this is what, a thriller? Yeah, that's where you're going to put that in the thriller section, not in the crime section. And so you would see, V for Vendetta by Alan Moore and David Lloyd. Be like, oh, what's this? Oh, is this one of the? It looks like and it's in the Japanese kind of tankobon style format of a smaller page. So it's not the usual, Here's your comparison. So the page is shrunk a bit. But it's the complete story, and it's a value. I mean, But what I like about it myself is the page quality. The page quality is it's like, it's not glossy white heavy stock paper. It's closer to newsprint. It's closer to like the pages you get in paperback books. And what I am loving about it is its original coloring. I just find this, I'm a Bronze Age baby. I love you have to be careful what you show. In this day and age, you only had 64 colors to work with that were to be printed and put on pages such as this. So it's not slick, it's not glossy, you know what I mean? So you don't get a high shine to the pages. So the colors here are very muted, you know. I mean, where does it say who's the colorist? Where do I have glasses? What did I do with, where's my coffee? Let's open up this book. The colorists were David Lloyd, the illustrator himself. So the illustrator means that he drew them and he inked them. Remember, this was originally in black and white. The letterers were Jenny O'Connor, Steve Craddock, and Alita Fell. And the colorists were David Lloyd himself, Steve Whitaker, and Saban Dodds. Karen Berger was the editor of the original series, or was she? Well, she edited the Vertigo line in imprint. But remember, this was in a pre-existing, you know, wouldn't Warrior, the editor of Warrior, be the original editor? Oh, see, this is where we get into, like, you know, perpetuity of production rights and shit, right? I mean, Karen Berger hasn't been the editor in a while, and Art Young was the assistant editor, original series. Marie Javins, VP. I'm getting this from the indicia and the credits page. It still has an indicia. This is a 2025 book. It was released on November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th, at bookstores. But for my comic book shop, it released on new release day on Wednesday, the 5th of November. I bought my copy. There was only 2 left when I got mine. I got there at my local comic book shop at 3 p.m. on new release day. They open at 11, so the store's been open for 4 hours. And even Doreen at the register, she's one of the staff, she's like, we've blown through these today. Rightfully so. They're gonna keep on restocking this, but I mean, just the coloring in this, it's great. It's magical. I love it. I love this old look. I love the way this paperback page takes the colors and the way they look underneath light. You know, this is by hand art. This is by hand inking. This is by hand coloring. And you have a curated palette. You only had 64 colors. But I mean, just like, this is what an old DC comic would look like. This is what Swamp Thing looked like. You know, over at the same time between 1982 and 1985, while Moore is doing this for Warrior, he's also doing DC Comics. He's doing specifically Swamp Thing and setting up. He's introducing John Constantine. He's blowing minds with John Toddleman and Steve Bissett on just the sophisticated suspense. And he was barely 30 years old. You know, wow. And it's interesting too, because tonally, you know, like, now look at this page. Look at this. I love. I mean, this is a book. This is a book. This is a great illustrated book. There's also I hear that HBO Max is doing a television series about this, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they're going to go into modernization and, you know, they're going to woke it up. Whoa, which it doesn't need. If you didn't deviate one bit from this source material, you would tell one of the most harrowing sci-fi tales. And it's antediluvian now because it's written in 1982, set in a future 1998. In those 16 years, what happened to England to end up this way? Under a tyrannical fascist government with there's over surveillance, you know what I mean? Brutal, justice, and then the voices of resistance standing up to what you would call as fascism. And yet and how did Britain end up that way? But it's like something about the prescient nature of science fiction again. This is why I'm a sci-fi fan, and just maybe it took about 30 more years almost, but Britain almost, and this is satirical, and this is just comparing, like, wow, like, what is the political climate over in the UK today? How closely did V for Vendetta call a few things, specifically like the opening pages? For your protection. CCTV, there are closed caption cameras everywhere. I mean, oh, look at this art. I mean, look at this. Oh gosh. I mean, this, and it's to the point where it just sets up the story very quickly with great pacing and great storytelling. And I mean, but you don't have to deviate from the source material to get the point across. I mean, they could do this like Sin City style. What Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller did on the Sin City movies was they did not deviate from the source material. Even Zack Snyder did something to Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, his version of The Watchmen. He tinkered with the ending. He made it an interesting ending. He avoided the whole. It's interesting. He put a spin on it, but it was an adaptation. It wasn't this. It got to the same point in a way, but a different route. But it was there, But still, it wasn't authentic to the source material by the end. They tinkered with it for the sake of tinkering with things, for putting your thumbprint on, your mark on this great thing. And that's probably the biggest thing about adapting into serials. I mean, look at the failure of Y: The Last Man, or look at The Handmaid's Tale. And I wanted to bring up The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, the 1985 book about fascism, dystopian. You know what I mean? Time to check the temperatures. I'm off of work. No, it's my daily reminder. Like, right, do your paperwork, take temps, and log them. That's part of the job, dude. But 1985, Canadian sci-fi author Margaret Atwood released The Handmaid's Tale, which I see as like these are parallel works, written and produced at the same time. A Canadian and a Brit. They're both responding to something in the political climes of the Commonwealth of the UK. And they have like very similar themes now. And look at what became of The Handmaid's Tale over 5 seasons. It became less of a pithy, punchy sci-fi allegory and warning, and became like basically a feminist power fantasy. And it was like, and it just like, but it can't take away from the pithy punchiness of the original Handmaid's Tale, which is an amazing book. I've read it a few times. Margaret Atwood's a maestra. She really is. And I think they could be taking, you could run a course and be like, listen, the similarities between, I don't think they influenced each other. They were both being produced, written, and published at about the same time. It's interesting to see these parallels, but they're also, it's got to be some kind of response to Tory England and the Thatcher administration. in the UK of the early 80s in response to Reagan, in response to, exactly. But I mean, this is a fabulous book, and get yourself a copy. I'm between. I hadn't had a copy of E for Vendetta in years, and I'm so blessed and grateful that I got this. This is so good, and it just brings me back to, my this is my wheelhouse. The lettering is hand lettered. It's handed. This is the colors, just because when you have this unlimited color palette of digital coloring, you don't have this restraint, I guess, these conditions. And also just the light and the shadow plays so much, wonderfully in here. Oh gosh, I love this book. This is great. I'm so glad I got this. Let's talk about art a little bit more. I love art. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show about how sorry, I burped. One of the best covers ever, I think, and using a lot of negative space. But still, I remember this one from being a kid. I'm so happy I got a new copy. I like art, and I like putting art up on. I've been living here now on my own for a year now. I inherited my mom's condo after she passed away, and so this is celebrating my first anniversary of living alone. And so one of the things I'm doing is just like I get art for my living room. I have framed prints like of the concerts I've been to, like um tasteful rock and roll posters. I love it. A couple of different I got a John Singer Sargent reproduction, an Andrew Wyeth that's been in my family for a long time. And I also got so I grew up with these books, the impressionists, French impressionists, Renaissance, um it's just history and art and an appreciation for it. So it's not just comic book art that and pop art that I have an appreciation for. I got a deep appreciation for this for most art of world history, because it's about this is how information got transmitted before the digital age. I think we're really, we could be very jaded with all this information at our fingertips at light speed, literally at light speed. The speed of electricity is literally the speed of light. But art, paintings, portrait, sculpture, poetry, music, dance, theater, literature. It is human history. It is the story of human history. Art history is the story of history itself. So buttons, as Ma says. I got this for the living room. This is how are we gonna do this? Oh my gosh. I'll get it again in a second. Because we like to read from wikis, this is called Rideau, Cruchon et Compotier. It is an oil on canvas painting created by Paul Cézanne between 1893 to 1894. It's a formal still life composition. here. We can see it. It's about shadow and light. It's also about respecting light source. So you can see it's cartoony in a way. It's because it's not photorealistic, as we tend to refer it to, as clear as a photograph. So there's there's a tablecloth. There's a decanter, and then there are several types of fruit, apples and citrus. And you can see what the light source is relative to like where the glare is on spherical objects, such as the decanter, the shadow underneath its handle, the glare, on where the rounder fruits are. You can see shadow on the creases of the curtain behind the decanter, behind the table. You can see the shadows created by the tablecloth underneath on the table, underneath the tablecloth itself. I mean, I love art. I do. And I saw this. I know this isn't someone's private collection. I saw it on the reading from the wiki. It's displaying Cézanne's exploration of form, balance, and symmetry in objects. On May 10th, 1999, the painting was sold at Sotheby's auction for $60.5 million, making it the most expensive still life painting ever sold at auction. I saw this in a big frame at the Art Institute of Chicago 10 years ago in 2015. So I got a picture of this hanging on the wall there. It was on display there at its time. Wherever it is now, I have no idea. This painting is a formal representation of its subject title, depicting a wooden table which are placed a large earthenware jug and a fruit bowl stacked with apples and oranges. To the left of the painting, a curtain hangs in front of a patterned wall. A white cloth has been draped across the table with various fruits placed amongst its folds. The composition displays a study of outlines and a symmetry of objects. The earthenware jug has been depicted in a unique manner, in contradiction to ordinary perspective. It has been adapted to the shapes of the fruit and the other elements of the compositions. The rich colors of the objects have been individually rendered with a full range of varying shades. Exactly. I mean, it's very cartoony. That's what that was like. It's still life, but it's not photorealistic, is it? At all? I don't think so. But yeah, so I got one, and I got it from Amazon. It's on canvas, and so it's got a wooden frame to it, and so it's kind of like computer spray painted with acrylic on canvas, so it doesn't have the glare that a framed print with a plexi or a glass front have. So it has so I've got a couple of things out there in the living room that are like this. One for my Star Wars display, and I got the reproduction of the Goodfellas mother's portrait of the two dogs and the guy in the boat. That's a sly movie reference. I'm a huge movie reference man, but I love art, and so this I remember like being called to Cézanne across the hall, and we walk in, and I'm like, oh my god, that's Cézanne, and I just walked right up to it, and just like I recognized it from across the hall, just the art style and the artist. And if I didn't know the name of the portrait, but there were several, they had a few by Cézanne there that time at 2015. It's my playlist of on my Google Photos, 2015 Chicago trip. We also went back in 2016 and 2017. I love going to the AI, the Art Institute. It's like one of my favorite things to do in Chicago. It was a Ferris Bueller day we had, the three of us. I wore a a Chicago Red Wings jersey too. And it was me, Peter, and Emily. And we all met up in Chicago 10 years ago just to hang out. And we went to a Cubs game that afternoon as well. So it was like, and coming out of the hotel, it was there was a Ferrari drove by. No lie, this happened. And it was just like, oh, wow. So we had our very own Ferris Bueller day. You know, we had a Ferris Bueller's day off. So we retraced those steps. We went to the AI, and then we went to a Cubs afternoon game. It was a good time, very good time had. And but still, I saw this in real life on display, and it's going somewhere in my living room. Somewhere. So yeah, that's a bit of art appreciation for me. Yeah. So my art, that art. I love art. I really do. I love, and you know, you need free speech in order to pull off authentic art, even if it insults you. I mean, I've come to a point with my YouTube spheres that, I mean, things get pretty darn racist, pretty darn homophobic, pretty darn like sometimes anti, you know, this culture or that culture. And you are going to become what you consume. So you have to watch out for, even if it's like, oh, we're only joking. Like I recently I stopped watching H. Pearl Davis. I like watching Hannah Pearl Davis. I thought she was kind of a firebrand. I liked what she had to say about feminism. I liked her point of view, where she was coming from. But she's a bag of hammers in the deep end of the pool. She will drag you down very quickly. She's very black-pilled, but also what I found was the black pill is a you know, it just means you lost hope. In a move, it means, you know, PILL. It's like, as opposed to the white pill or the red or the blue pills, the Matrix one, but also its modern connotation of red and blue being the your false dichotomy of choice. Like, you know, no, there are different, you know, and those colors correspond with ideology. So, and I just like what Pearl says about the lack of accountability, and you can't be a victim and a survivor at the same time. All of this, like cultural stuff, you know. But she recently had on the comedian Leonardo Jordi, and I felt the mask fall off a little bit, and it just like you know, it made me question about where are the punchlines. Those aren't punchlines; those are punch downs. I mean, if you actually had legitimate punchlines that, you know, made fun of racism, no, these are just punch downs, you know, on people's culture and skin color, which is like, you know, not so much fun for me. And so I'm like, you know, just watching this is like, or you know, liking tweets and liking thumbs upping YouTube videos. That's tacit approval in a way. You're approving of this, you know. So I had enough, and I also had enough. I've had enough in, you know, other YouTube spheres too. So it's like, are you kidding me? It's like, you will become what you consume. So if your YouTube host is completely going on about and trying to be a 1990s shock jock, that's great, but that was 30 years ago. You'd be better off trying to be Wolfman Jack and say, "Hey kids out there, hubba hubba hubba, we got a new single for you." Ow! You know, Howard Stern. It was 30 years ago. The shock jock thing was 30 years ago. I understand there's a whole thing of like, we need to keep the irreverency alive. We can't let the oversensitivities of the, you know, the whiners dictate what is, you know, what happens to free speech, what happens to my right to offend, what happens, you know, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. That's a Ricky Gervais quote. I love that. You know, it just the whole barrier of like of offense, like, oh, I'm offended. Well, then put your attention elsewhere. I mean, so I do believe in free speech, but you will become what you consume. You look at junk food. I mean, look at your diet. I mean, are you eating healthy? I mean, are you having enough broccoli stems? Are you pooping right? Seriously, that's the big one of the biggest things takeaways of a good diet is your healthy poops. And seriously, I'm not making that up. That's some good shit. But I mean, like, how often, now, like, oh gosh, I'm gonna do it. This is my valediction for the Jack Show. I love the Jack Show. For the past 5 years, I've been like, I told you, I wake up at 3:38 a.m. And when I wake up on a Friday morning, the first thing I do is I put on the Jack Show, which is a YouTube show of the 1990s shock jock humor, gross out humor, put down humor, offensive stuff. Jack Show is not for everyone. It is a very curated audience, especially those of us who grew up liking the 1990s FM radio shock jock, the Howard Stern types, Opie and Anthony, Bubba the Love Sponge, all down the line. You have like there is a market for that. What happened to the 1990s shock jock? Did it run its natural course, or is there still an audience for that kind of outlet? Yes, there's an audience for that. There's only several thousands of people. I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps. Not many, though. It's a very curated small group. And so these voices are amplified and and a lot of it is a response. You have woke, you have anti-woke, in a way. And the more that the voices of the marginalized and the vulnerable need to be protected and supported and uplifted, the more people thinking like there's something really weird, there's nothing wrong with those noble goals, but to be perpetually offended and to use that as a defense mechanism and to leverage silence out of someone. What happened to just put your attention elsewhere? Oh no, we can't have this dissemination of this negativity. We have to do something about it. We have to regulate, the way people speak. But in that drive to be irreverent, in that drive to keep alive the fires of this of put down humor and offensive humor, some of this stuff's fun. The reason why I watched Jack Show was because it reminded me of me and my friends. The ball busting, the cut ups, the put downs, the humiliation joke, the jibes, the jabs, the finger pointing, the making fun of, and then also the coming together over like the things that we love in the movies and in shows and books and comics. And so Jack Show for me, and so I mean, just about 2021, it's I think about 2020, 2021. Yeah, I started like watching Jack Show a lot, and it's 2025 now, and Jack Show might be over. It's probably over. It might come back, but it's over. What is Jack Show? Jack Show is a rotating host of usually 4 host and a hostess. J for John Malin, A for Anna, that Star Wars girl, C for Cecil Jones of Cecil Says, and then K for Kelsey Shannon, who left the show about a year or more ago under stressful circumstances because of the duress of YouTube circles of drama. And it gets to a point where like you have to take a stand and be like, I don't want this shit anymore. Well, apparently the other day, John Malin, a comic book artist, left the Jack Show, the J of the Jack Show. So now it's over some drama that's been happening in that sphere and on the show itself. Now, John did leave the show several months ago after a blow up with Cecil, and it was unsure that he was coming back. Behind the scenes, things were smoothed over, and then Jack show went on. And like, how much can you complain about a thing that's made for free that you get for free? You can send super chats and support the show any way you like. But when it comes down to it, just like, it's YouTube content made for free, and it's for free, and you just watch, kind of like what you're doing with this show right now, or what we do at Wes's at Thinking Critical every Saturday, with the comics aficionados. Wow. Yeah, huh? And I wake up on a Friday morning, 3:38 a.m. I turn on the Jack Show. It's usually the end of the show. They've been going on since 11 p.m. and it's usually it could be about a 4-hour show, so I'm catching the end of it. And usually, and years ago when I first started, it was, how trashed is Cecil? How drunk is everyone? Where, what was you see the carnage of what came before, and then I'd rewind it and watch it from the beginning and watch that's what I would watch that Friday, and they'd keep me company, hanging out with these oddball nitwit. It's Nitwit, nitwit. That's a it's a ball busting put down, and but yeah, the Jack show might be over. Yeah. And all good things come to an end. And I've been grateful and blessed to have had the Jack show in my life. I've I mean, Cecil follows me, Anna follows me, we follow each other. Kelsey is MIA, and John's like, just something happened. There was an inciting incident. But he was displeased with the show. He was ready to leave the show months ago. So it's more of like, maybe he's had enough. Maybe it's the hours. Maybe it's the content. Maybe it's, it always seemed like everyone was having a great time, and with put down humor, irreverency, saying shocking things for the sake of being funny and being shocking. That's a lot of it. It's simple. You know what I mean? If you're oversensitive, you shouldn't be watching the Jack show. There are parts of Jack show I can't stand, like the pimple popping stuff, or the gross out stuff. You know what I mean? Or showing bodily harm, showing people, getting. I don't like seeing human bodies in accidents, like falling from places, or automotive stuff, or even like. And then they would mercilessly, make fun of just like people with deformities, or birth defects, or even, natural weirdnesses, but it was like, that was the space for that goofy style of humor, this shock jock thing. And now Ethan does Trashcast, and that's like wow. Like, when do I stop watching that? I used to be a member at his channel, and I stopped because I hit the wall with it. But also, I've come back, not as a member, but I still watch the show. But it's like endless, like, misery and drama. For what? For why? Are you not entertained? I feel like Maximus. How am I entertained? Why am I entertained? Is it entertaining? Is it enriching my life? I've come across some different channels too that I will. The rest is history, with Stuart and Tom, two English blokes talking about history. I'd rather be watching that, hearing people talk about, the 7 Years' War, or like the defense of Stalingrad, or It's stuff like, I love history, and I should, you will become what you consume. I don't want to become, a racist because I approve of these different right-leaning, and purposefully offensive people. I don't want to become that. Yet that's a lot of what goes on my Black Mirrors. If it's H. Pearl Davis, you know what I mean? If it's Ethan Van Sciver, I mean, still, it's like I'm consuming trash. I'm consuming garbage. I've been consuming subtle racism. I'm consuming subtle homophobia. I'm consuming, or not. They're not so subtle, but it's done. Oh, and we're just joking. Okay, but I believe in punchlines. I believe in setup and punchline. That's a joke. I believe in funny. Is this funny? I mean, but there comes a point where it stops being a punchline. It starts being a punch down. Punch ups are funny too, but I mean, punch downs are kind of like that, but that is the spirit of put down humor. You are punching down, and it happens, and it is a cheap and easy way to get a joke or a goof. I don't have answers. All I have are more questions. And when the big question is, why am I watching this? Why is this how I'm spending my time? Shouldn't I be doing more fulfilling and more fun things? Even if it's like, playing Tetris. Well, playing Tetris is good for your mind. It's problem solving, or re-experiencing an old video game, like such as my little Vic arcade. Shouldn't I be watching that instead of cringing at someone's dumb race reference? I mean, or just something that's so close to racism. It's you have to. It's not ironic. It's not clever. If you're actively saying like your only veneer of deflecting your racism is saying that it was a joke, that doesn't work anymore. It's not 30 years ago. You're not Howard Stern. You know what I mean? Opie and Anthony. It had a day, and it had an audience, and it still does. I believe that's where the audience of that went. The Opie and Anthony stuff. Where did it go? They're out there. There's only tens of thousands of them, maybe hundreds of thousands. I mean, heck, the American population's about 360 million people. How many of those are of a certain age? How many of those are on YouTube? How many of those listen to who were cognizant 30 years ago for the shock jock rage? I mean, it's just so weird. We're throwing our energy and our support and our attention and our time. This is what we're consuming, and so this is what we're becoming. And so I hit a point with Pearl, where she was doing parody songs. She was trying to be funny about something, and it's just like between that and then the point of at the end of it was Leonardo Joni saying like, "Oh, they're all jokes. Don't worry about it." But it's like, I like jokes. I understand jokes. I am funny. I make jokes. What was your setup and what was the payoff? What was the punchline? There were no punchlines. There was just some, racist broad fucking spewing. And then saying at the end of it, "Oh, it's all a joke. Don't take it so seriously." It works for you. It doesn't work for me. And I'll put my attention elsewhere. Yeah. Like I'm supposed to take you seriously. Well, am I? I take, but so buttons, as Ma says. So buttons. Thank you so much for tuning in for this bonus Veterans Day Sully stream, coming to you from our Boston studios with Pikachu, my executive producer. That's Ducky. In the background, that's my Cecil hat. I love Cecil. I love Anna. I like John. I think John's funny in his own way, and he's very talented. I miss Kelsey, and I'm gonna miss the Jack Show. It was dopey, mindless. Take a break from your worries. Recently, it's gotten very political, and recently, it's suffering from the residual weight of all the YouTube, internet drama, and the just the personalities. It's is it fun anymore? Maybe this is John's way of saying he ain't having fun anymore. And it's better to do your own things. Even the Beatles broke up. But guess what? The Rolling Stones didn't. There's always something, right? Well, God bless. Namaste. Good luck. We'll see you in those funny pages. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. We would love to earn your subscription. We make content here. We talk about pop culture, comic books, hockey, cooking, spirituality, and gratitude. And it's such a potpourri of things. The algorithm has no clue how to suggest us, but we just keep going. We keep on keeping on, and this is what we're doing. This is my hobby. I love being a YouTuber. I really do. And I've been doing a lot of stuff remotely from my new mobile studio. Hey, it's beautiful weather. It's gonna. I'm in New England. I'm in Boston. The weather's gonna turn to shit any minute now. It's not even over 40 degrees today, and it rained for 2 days. So it's like winter is coming. Well, winter's breathing heavy. I'll tell you that much. So we'll see you guys later. Alligator, have a good one. And please smash that hype button, smash that like button, leave a comment, hit that share button. Any of these suggest our little show to the algorithm. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.